Morning, morning, good morning. It is Wednesday. It is the 2022 version of August. I think the 10th. How's everybody doing? It's good to be back. Ladies and gentlemen, there's not a huge amount of news out today. That's why there hasn't been a lot of news out really over the last few days, but that's why I haven't really done too much in the way of content. And every time I do a live stream, we seem to end up in the cyclical debate about success and failure. I think that's probably run its course now, isn't it? You know, I think everybody knows my take on it. Everybody knows everybody else's take on it who's been on the shows. And it's almost moved a little bit from the realms of debate into the realms of just arguing now, so it's taken the fun out of it a little bit. So unless there's any need, I think we're gonna bed and breakfast that debate until another future time when we can review it. Other news before I talk about the three topics of today, which are Emerson Royale, Udogie, Ndombele, and also a little bit on Zaniolo. 4 topics. Just want to update you on a personal thing about my bubba, Bugsy Malone. I know a lot of you are fond of her and like her in the community. So, for those who don't know, right, spaniels either can be pets, like, you know, residential domesticated animals like what Bugsy is, or they can be working dogs who go and help farmers retrieve game or whatever. And if you're a working Cocker Spaniel or a working Springer Spaniel or a Sprocker Spaniel, which is what Bugsy would have been, then you can dock their tail, because their tails are normally long and they whip all the time into things, right? And if you're running in and out of bramble and in the woods and stuff, catching pheasants or whatever it is that they do, then having a tail that's full length is it doesn't usually work out too well for the dogs. But Bugsy, if you're not that sort of working dog, then you're not allowed to dock their tail. Bugsy, while she's a residential domesticated dog, she loves getting in and amongst all of the crap in the areas that I live. I walk around here and there's lots of bramble and lots of nasty stuff, and unfortunately she got a cut on her tail and it's been infected. And yes, it has, isn't it? Yeah. And we took her to the vet yesterday, and the vet said that she has to have it cut off. So Bugsy Malone's going to go through, or next Tuesday she's going to go through a lot of treatment. She's being spayed at the same time, so she'll be in theatre for like half the day having the spade, so she can't have puppies, and also her tail's going to be chopped off, so she's going to be in a little bit of pain next Tuesday. But she wanted to let everybody know that she appreciates your well wishes and she loves you all. And but I think she's a little bit scared of operations, so if you could send a little prayer or a well wish her way, that would be appreciated by the Bugsy. Right, let's move on. Jesus Christ, what a day. 10 o'clock in the morning and it's absolute ripper of a day. So let's talk about Tottenham. We've got Emerson Royale is the first bit of news, right? Actually, no, let's start with Destiny Udogie. So I haven't done any content on this because even though everyone knows we're signing the guy now, it's basically a done deal. Here we go from Fabrizio Romano. But he's staying at Udinese for the season. So there's not really that much point in kind of going too deep on him, because we're not going to see him for 12 months and a lot can change. However, for what it's worth, you know, I think he was the second or third most successful left back in the Serie A last season, behind Perisic and maybe one other on I think it was assists and on GCA goal creating actions, which is super exciting for a team that's, you know, we're not the highest in Serie A, not the best quality, yet he kind of stood out, and he's young, so it's wonderful. To be honest, I'd like him. I wouldn't mind seeing him come in immediately, which would then allow you to get rid of Reguilón post haste, and then you'd have 3, but you could obviously then loosen up your strings with Perisic and see wherever he wants to go, he can go in terms of the position on the pitch. So I wouldn't mind seeing it, but it is what it is. The deal is the way it is, and we'll just wish the guy well and look forward to having him next season in a Spurs shirt, where he'll be competing with hopefully Sessegnon, if Sessegnon continues to improve and become less injury prone, if he can control his body's performance a bit better. And obviously we'll have Perisic still, but he'll be 1 year older. So, you know, we need to think about the future, and it's great to see that we're still doing that. I think it's nice to see this summer that we're having a blend of, for the here and now, players like Perisic and Bissouma and Longley, who can do a job. And then we're also continuing to keep one eye on the future. It's important to do it. You know, Manchester City are doing it. Chelsea continue to do it. We need to continue to do it as well. It's an important blend, and I'm happy with Destiny Udogie. I think he could become a top class player, and I think the deal was like 15 million or something. So, you know, hasn't broken the bank. Let's just see what happens next year. Emerson Royale, though, it's interesting, right? And I don't know, I'm going to read way too much into this, but I woke up this morning and I see a tweet from Will Stewart. Shout out to Will, who's commenting on a Spurs Express tweet from midnight last night UK time. Come on, Bugs, we're going to go back now. And it was I think it was an Instagram post from Emerson, who had a picture of him hugging QT Romero, and then in Spanish, I think, must have been Spanish, or that could have been Portuguese, saying something like, either it's a pleasure playing with you, or it's been a pleasure playing with you. Now, I don't speak those languages, so I'm not entirely sure of the tense that was used. The way it was reported was, it's been a pleasure playing with you, QT. It's been a pleasure, QT. Which is something that you would say if you're saying goodbye. Like I say, I don't know if this is 2 and 2 and getting 22, you know. But you could make the argument that that is somehow a goodbye message, which would lead everyone to naturally think that Emerson is on his way out of Tottenham. And there has been plenty of rumours over the summer that he has his followers, clubs in Spain that like him. What that would also mean, though, is if he left, well, that leaves you with just Jed Spence and Matt Doherty. Jed Spence, who's barely played a minute for Tottenham in pre-season, understandably so. A player that Antonio Conte has said, well, it wasn't my signing, it was a club signing, but I okayed it. And Matt Doherty is a player who's recovering from an injury of which he should never have played 45 minutes or whatever he got in pre-season against Seville or the K-League. I think I said this to you guys before, but when I was in my rugby playing days, I dislocated both of my knees 4 or 5 times, like in total. And whilst he didn't dislocate his knee, the injuries to his medial ligaments that he sustained are very similar to what happens to your ligaments when you dislocate your knee. And just knowing, you know, I was playing university level rugby to quite a good standard, but there's no way in a million years that you could be back fit after doing one of those in 3 months. Not back to your old level of fitness. And so I was very surprised by the fact that he came back so soon. I know he's a Premier League athlete with the best medical attention in the world, but your body is your body, and it takes time to get fully fit. And if he came back and played and then he's niggled it again, which looks likely, then first of all, what was the point? Like, it was such an unnecessary risk. And second of all, how long's he out for? And therefore, if there is any truth to the Emerson thing, then so you've got 2 wing backs, one of whom is untested in the Premier League, and the other of whom is, we have no idea what level of player is going to return after that injury. Because I promise you, as a human being, you never trust your knees again after you've done that. After you've had those injuries, they never feel the same, ever. And I've spoken to people that have dislocated their shoulders, you know, wrestling or doing jiu-jitsu, that kind of stuff. And they say once it goes, you can heal and repair and get something close to where it was, but in your mind, it's always in the back of your mind that it's going to go again. And so, for me, we just don't know what sort of Doherty's going to come back, and we don't know what sort of Jed Spence we even have. So the only way that would make sense if Emerson's leaving is if there's somebody else who's going to come in, which is something we all want. We all want that, right? Everybody, every Tottenham fan wants a better right wing back, someone who's like head and shoulders above what we have. And so if there is one coming in, superb. But there's been no rumours, has there? You know, we as a fan base concocted this dream world of Hakimi all summer. Who do we want at right wing back? Everyone was like, Hakimi. And on some level, I think we all convinced ourselves that it was possible, but there was never any noise about that. And, you know, usually there's no smoke without fire, or there's no fire without smoke, rather, I should say. So you'd have thought that if we're going to get rid of Emerson, then we'd already be hearing about a supposed replacement. Now, you might make the argument that, well, Bissouma came in and we didn't hear diddly squat about that. And I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. It is a good point. However, does lightning strike twice? I mean, it can, right? Certainly, if it happened with Bissouma, doesn't mean it won't happen again. But it's just unusual, isn't it? So it's unusual that a player gets signed, a big name player gets signed by a club without some ITK, insider, journalist getting wind of it. And it's getting late in the window, you know? It's late in the window now. 3 weeks left, 2.5 weeks left. We're already in the season, so I don't know. Look, I could be completely reading far too much into that whole Emerson thing, you know. Will Stewart put the tagline, and I'll drop it into the, I'm sure you've already seen it by now, but I will have dropped it in the quote. You know, Will Stewart saying, are you going somewhere, Emerson? No, it's interesting. I think it's an interesting take, right? So I thought I'd talk about it. Let me know what your thoughts are. And if you speak Spanish or Portuguese, let me know what the tense is in his language. Is it like, it's a pleasure playing with you, or it's been a pleasure? Because the two mean different things, obviously, for the purpose of the story. And you know what, guys, I gotta be honest, I'm not even sure if I want Emerson to go. I like Emerson. Like, I know a lot of people like he's just not good enough. A lot of people, regulars on the show, say, you know, you shouldn't have to, you're a Premier League club like Tottenham that are going for major honours, you shouldn't have to hope that players improve. Well, look, all I can say is Emerson's nowhere near good enough. He's nowhere near the finished article. But you'd be very mean if you wouldn't acknowledge that he has improved from his first 3-4 months at Tottenham last season. Then he got dropped, and then Matt Doherty came in, and then when Matt Doherty had his injury against Villa, when Emerson came back in for the last 5 games of the season, 4 or 5 games of the season, and everyone was like, you know, myself included, was like, oh no, we got Emerson. That's it, that's top 4 over. But to be fair to him, he stepped up. Liverpool away, he was very good. Brentford, Even though the game was rubbish, he was pretty good. Arsenal. Shut up, sheepy. And Norwich, very good. And Southampton has been better. I'm going to press pause. I've got to say hello to some neighbours. 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Just talking to some neighbours. Not entirely sure where I finished up. I think it was about Emerson. Yeah, I just think the guy's like, he's played 5 games on the bounce spread across 2 seasons now. I think he's got progressively. Oh, geez, I think he's got progressively better in each of them, and consequently, I think that, you know, he's got a lot to learn for sure, a lot to learn. But I think he's someone that wants to learn. I think he's someone that can learn. But then I also want a better right wing back. And you can't have, you know, how many right wing backs would we have if we were to go and sign somebody? Shut up! If we were to go and sign somebody else, you know, a £50 million or £40 million right wing back, whoever it might be, then you've got Emerson, Jed Spence, Doherty. Technically, you've got Lucas Moura. You know, so I don't see us signing one before we let go of one, but I don't know if I want to let go of it right now as it stands. For me, if you had to pick one to let go of to make room for someone better, given the fact that you don't know what level of Doherty you're going to get back, given the fact that Doherty's 30, he's not going to, or 31, however old he is, he's not going to get much better now. But you have to factor in, he did play really well, but it was only over a 6-game period. In the season before that, we were all like, this guy's useless. So, I mean, pick your poison. Pick your poison, guys. Let me know, who would you, if you think there's any truth to the Emerson story, and I don't know if there is, I haven't read anything about it. I'm just going off of that tweet. That's something to talk about. Then, you know, don't know. Other thing I want to talk to you about, moving on, is Ndombele. Rumours out today, right, that Napoli are joining Villarreal in the pursuit of Ndombele. All of a sudden there's a bidding war for him. And that maybe a couple other clubs are also going to go in. Now, I don't know what the situation is, whether Tottenham would just let him go for free or what the asking price is. I've seen like Lo Celso's asking price has got, you know, been whacked down to like only 14 million quid, and he doesn't look like he's trouble. So it's just about trying to find a club that, you know, wants him, that can afford him, and that can fit in to their system. But Ndombele is a different problem, isn't he? You know, and the problem is that he's unhappy. I saw the was it Paul Robinson or somebody else came out yesterday and said the guy's just basically toxic. He's trouble. He's got all the talent in the world, but none of the desire, none of the drive, and his attitude stinks. Who wants a player like that? You know. Well, apparently Napoli and Villarreal do, but yeah, that's right. But for them, the stumbling block is his wages. Now, I'll be honest, guys, like, if you're earning 200 grand a week and you were offered a job elsewhere that was only going to pay you 30% of your salary of what you were getting elsewhere, but where you currently are, you're miserable and unhappy, and the only way out of that is to sacrifice your salary and move on and start again, then you could understand the idea that most people would say no one's going to do that. But I'll be honest with you guys, like, personal tale here, little anecdote, I did do that. Right, I worked from the first day I left university in 2006, I think it was. No, 2005 maybe, can't remember now. I went to work in investment banking, and I did that for a long time, and You know, I was on good money, right? But by the end of my time there, was it 11 years? 10 years? Something like that. I couldn't stand the environment. I loved the job. I loved trading. I loved being involved in deals and the financial side of the economy. It's fascinating to me. It's something I've always stayed in touch with ever since I left. But I hated the people I worked with. Like, toxic doesn't even begin to describe the environment, right? It's one of those places where, like, your best friend would throw you under the bus if it got a laugh from their boss or from the people around them. And I'm not talking about me specifically, I'm talking about just people, like, you would see it just all day long, every day. It was like hyenas preying on whichever meat was vulnerable. And I hated it. I turned into a nastier person than I was growing up by being around that environment. So I left, right? I had a long, hard decision to make because finance was all I knew. Finance was all I'd studied, and I left. And despite I spent a little bit of time in Thailand doing some Thai boxing, and then I ended up in Australia, and a friend of mine that I'd met traveling years ago offered me an interview to work for a Google partner as a sales guy. And I promise you, I had no idea. I knew nothing about marketing, nothing at all. I got the job, I took the job, right? But because the cost of living in Melbourne at the time is like 50-60% higher than it was in London, which is mad to think, but just the cost of like beers or going to the supermarket, so much more expensive. So my cost of living went up by like 50%. And my initial salary, because I was a sales guy, I was on commissions as much as a salary, but I didn't know what the hell I was doing. My salary dropped by 70%, 80% from what I was earning in the finance game. I was never happier in my life than in the first year of my time in Australia. I had nothing. I knew nothing. I barely knew anybody. It was a change of environment, and financially it was the worst decision I could have made. But it was the happiest I've ever been. Bugsy! Bugsy, here! It was the happiest I've ever been, and I wouldn't change it for a second. After time, I got better and better, understood what I was doing, became a success, ended up, getting other opportunities from that, and everything worked out in the end, right? Financially and as a career path. So, let me come back here for a minute because it's too noisy. My point is that Ndombele would be forgiven for thinking he'd be mad to give up 200 grand a week to go and work somewhere where he's only going to get paid 40 grand a week. But if it's a path to happiness, he should take it. Coming from someone that took that difficult decision and never looked back. I think Ndombele, if somebody was advising him, like I was advised at the time, that happiness and money are not intrinsically linked. Money gives you options, it doesn't give you happiness. And that Ndombele should do whatever he can do to make that deal happen. Go to Villarreal, go somewhere warmer, go to Napoli, go and find a new bunch of teammates who don't know you, start again. And if you do as well as you can do, if your career takes off like it could, if you were in a better environment, then you will have far more opportunities. You're still young, you're 23, 24 years old. You've got the world at your feet. Don't let a nice, juicy contract get in the way of a good career. Shake hands with yourself, Tanguy. Get the job done, my man. Release the cash for the short term and you'll be better off for it in the long term. I promise you. I love you guys. That's everything from me. Like, share and subscribe, and I'll see you, if not before, then for the Chelsea game. We've got the watch along ready, and this time all of the software is going to be ready for OBS. It's going to look cool and it's going to be a better experience. Like, share and subscribe, guys. Take care. As always, guys, bye bye.